In December 2019, Cabinet adopted a report on the government's response to the recommendation of the Advisory Panel on Agriculture and Land Reform. Cabinet emphasized the need to move with speed in the implementation of the panel's recommendation to ensure that our land reform program urgently responds to developmental imperatives of restorative justice, economic inclusion, and social cohesion. For us, the work of the panel foregrounded the centrality of the three key pillars of our land reform program, namely restitution, redistribution, and land tenure. As we implement the panel's recommendations, we will continue to pay equal attention to these key policy instruments while ensuring that our approach to land reform does not impact negatively on agricultural production and the economy in general. More significantly, the constitutionally defined path of our land reform program will continue to focus on balancing the needs of reversing the legacy of land possession and deprivation with the vision of fostering nation building, unity, and social cohesion. Access to land is an act of social justice that cannot be delayed. The recommendations of the panel covered a wide range of thematic areas focusing on legislative and policy interventions, integrated land administration, spatial development planning to guide land use decisions, fast-tracking outstanding land claims, as well as key measures to accelerate the release of land for redistribution. As government, we are on course in terms of the implementation process. The Interministerial Committee on Land Reform and Agriculture receives regular reports on the implementation of the panel's recommendation and is responsible for ensuring that Cabinet is briefed accordingly. With regards to the key legislative and policy intervention, some of the key achievements include, but not limited to, the finalization of the Appropriation Bill of 2020, which is currently before Parliament, the finalization and submission to Parliament of the Land Court Bill to provide for the establishment of the court that will focus on land matters, set out clear dispute resolution mechanism, and strengthen jurisprudence on land-related matters. The adoption of the beneficiary selection and land allocation policy that guides the allocation of land to different categories of beneficiaries. Ensuring that land donation policy is approved to guide land donation transactions by the private sector and institutions that are keen to contribute to our land reform program. Furthermore, Cabinet has adopted a position paper on land administration and tenure reform for consultation with various stakeholders. The process of consultation with provinces on the position paper is in progress. This will be followed by the Land Summit with traditional leaders in order to find common ground on land tenure reform and approaches to land under the custodianship of traditional leaders. Alongside land tenure reforms, the Interministerial Committee on Land Reform and Agriculture has focused on accelerating the settlement of outstanding land claims and handing over of title deeds to rightful owners of land. As part of this, we have instituted a coordinated government approach towards ensuring restituted land is coupled with a targeted package of development support to ensure that beneficiaries of restituted land are empowered to utilize their land productively. We are equally making progress on the development of an overarching land administration policy framework that prioritizes the recordal of all land rights. Work on the finalization of the National Development Spatial Framework is in progress to ensure that it guides overall land use decisions across the country. It will also provide for the alignment of various planning instruments with the context of the district development model. Guided by spatial development needs, our land reform program is already focusing on the release of strategically located land for human settlement, economic development, and social inclusion. As part of the human settlement framework for spatial transformation and consolidation, 136 priority housing development areas have been declared as spaces for development of human settlements, including mixed use, high density, and multiple typology of housing developments. These developments, Honorable Deputy Speaker, will be supported with the necessary requisite infrastructure to ensure sustainability and better quality of life for our citizens. The release of state-owned land is in progress. The Minister of Agriculture, Land Reform and Rural Development announced the advertisement of 529,000 hectares of land available for release as part of the 700,000 hectares that was announced by the President in February 2020 State of the Nation. To date, 436,563 hectares have been released and approved for allocation under Land Redistribution Program. Over 5,540 hectares of the 436,563 hectares have been approved for disposal and the remainder for leasing. Furthermore, we'll be releasing state-owned land to address development pressures around urban and rural human settlements, agricultural production, industrial development. The process of releasing state land for agricultural purpose is targeted at vulnerable groups of our society, as we have said before, and will empower women, youth, and people with disabilities. To ensure that land is productively utilized by beneficiaries, government is paying attention to the provision of effective post-settlement support. We are focusing on improving coordination of integrated post-settlement packages to beneficiaries of land, including finance, infrastructure, and access to water resources for development. The Department of Agriculture, Land Reform and Rural Development has set aside 1 billion rand for the blended financing scheme, of which 200 million rand was authorized to be transferred to IDC for disbursement. This support will go a long way towards supporting the commercialization of black producers in the agricultural value chain. The blended finance scheme is a combination of loans and a grant to support agricultural development and improve access to affordable finance by producers. We are confident that while a lot of work still remains, we have made significant strides in implementing the recommendations of the panel on land reform and agriculture. Thank you, Deputy Speaker.
Thank you, Deputy President. The first supplementary will be done by Honorable Mahlati.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Thank you, Deputy President, for your compendious response. You have touched on an important aspect in the development of the agricultural sector, and that is most importantly the post-settlement support and other related challenges of access to finance, lack of adequate agricultural infrastructure, and access to water resources. Now, Deputy President, what are the government's plans in terms of ensuring that water boards across the length and breadth of our country are properly placed at the center or at service of the agricultural sector, and thus playing a developmental role that would ensure increased agricultural productivity and food security? Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker.
Thank you, Mayor. Deputy President.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, and thanks to the Honorable Member for the question. We are quite aware, Deputy Speaker, that agriculture is one of the largest consumers of water in the country. That is why government must find a way of upscaling investment in irrigation infrastructure and implement key institutional reform to ensure increased agricultural production and food security. To this end, the process is underway to rationalize water boards and establish regional water utilities. We are also in the process of rationalizing the boards itself so that we ensure that they possess the requisite skills to be able to discharge their work. Skills such as engineering skills, financial skills, legal skills, as well as human resource skills. Relocation of water rights to smallholder farming and farmers will also preoccupy our agenda going forward. To date, the Department of Water and Sanitation has issued 107 water licenses since November 2019. The target for 2021-22 is to issue licenses to be used for 1,250 hectares to smallholder farmers. We're doing this, Honorable Speaker, Deputy Speaker, to ensure that we open for new entrances and we support them to be productive. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The next second question will be asked by Honorable Steyn.
Thank you, Speaker, Deputy Speaker.
Thank you.
Deputy President, on the 18th of May 2018, that's almost 3 years ago, President Ramaphosa handed out title deeds in Tembisa during his Chumamina campaign. He committed to ensuring that the deeds office would fast-track the process of handing out title deeds to the residents and declared title deed Fridays. Deputy President, since then, I have been inundated by the calls for help from black farmers who have received eviction letters from your government. You might have read in the media about Mr. Ivan Klute, Mr. Vianney Zigane, and all the farmers in Mpumalanga, your home province, where they have received letters to evict the state-owned farms. Mr. Ragatse had to take government to court to get title to his land. Could you please tell me, how many title deeds did your ANC government hand out in the past 3 years? Thank you. Listening to you, Deputy President, answering your question, it sounds like all is well in this department.
Now you are going over time. Members, I want to repeat, you were allocated time. Please, do not exceed it. I'm simply enforcing what you agreed to. You can't change it in the House, not without the permission of the House. So when I say stop, I mean it. Honorable Deputy President.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Speaker. I am quite content with the progress that is made by the Deeds Office, because currently, as we're speaking, we continue with our program of handing out title deeds. In the coming weeks, months, we'll be doing so all over the country. So I'm quite happy with the progress that the office is making. But I'm willing, Honorable Deputy Speaker, to take the concerns raised by the Honorable Member of black farmers that are being evicted, that are currently occupying state land, so that we can understand exactly the reasons why are they evicted, and if there's a way we can assist them. Now, beyond this session of Parliament, we'll request the Honourable Member to get in touch with us so that we can assist those small emerging farmers. Thank you.
Thank you. Achtbaar Breed, dus u se kans nu.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Deputy President, Machabeng local municipality recently provided 139 farms as guarantee against debt owed to Eskom. The total value of the farms is 2.5 billion rand. Machabeng is not the only municipality in South Africa that owes Eskom money, and surely not the last to provide state-owned land as guarantee for these debts. Understandably, Eskom needs collateral for monies owed, but the reality is that these are farms that could have been used for the government's commitment to release state-owned land. In light of the indication that state-owned land will be prioritized for redistribution, has the government taken into account that land given as guarantee will possibly hamper redistribution thereof, and what is the plan to guarantee these debts should the available land be redistributed? Deputy Speaker, I thank you.
Thank you. Honorable Deputy President.
Thank you very much, Honorable Deputy Speaker. We are quite keen to investigate the matter of the Machabeng local municipality. In our engagement with all municipalities that are owing Eskom, we finally reached an agreement that all the municipalities that are owing Eskom, especially the first 18 municipalities that are owing large sums of money, we are going to request Eskom to take over the distribution and the collection of rates, so that finally Eskom can improve the revenue collection of the municipality and allow the municipality to repay its debts. So we are proceeding with the Maluti Apofong municipality, taking this route, and I'm sure a number of municipalities are going to follow. And I'm confident that the land that has been utilized here, the land that has been taken by Eskom, if we enter into this kind of an approach, that land will be released, will come back to the state, and the state would accordingly redistribute that land to people that needs to farm, especially our small farmers. Thank you very much, Honorable Deputy Speaker.
Thank you, Deputy President. Honorable MGE Hendricks.
Thank you very much, Honorable Deputy Speaker. Honorable Deputy President, In 2003, the Commission on Traditional Leadership, Disputes and Claims was established. It was tasked with restoring the dignity of traditional leaders and their communities. The Griqua community, the Khoi community, and the San community, indigenous South African were dispossessed, having endured much language, and do have a culture, but no land, Honourable Deputy President. Are you prepared, Honourable Deputy President, to return a pocket of land to show good faith while the Interministerial Committee on Land Reform and Agriculture carries out its mandate to fast-track land reform? These communities can then use the land for agriculture, human settlements and industrial development. This will be your legacy, Honourable Deputy President, and you will be remembered for restorative justice and promoting inclusive economic participation. Thank you, Honourable Deputy Speaker.
Thank you, Honourable Deputy President. Honourable Kola, please mute your system there. You seem to forget it. It happens too often now. It's a pattern. Please close your mic. Deputy President.
Thank you. Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Firstly, I think we need to address the recognition of the Khoi and San traditional leadership, and that is going to be done through the bill that is before Parliament. Now, secondly, through our redistribution and our restitution program, we are willing to restore land that was dispossessed from these communities, the Khoi and the San. Now, in the process, we are expecting them to put a formal claim, and from there we are going to investigate the claim, and we are going to speed it up and ensure that the rightful land is restored to them. But of course, in terms of the traditional leaders, the land that is under their custodian, the communal land, we are now in a process of consulting with traditional leaders on how best to handle.
Deputy President, one moment. Honourable members, you have invited the Deputy President to answer your questions. If you compete with him now, with your, whatever you call what you're doing, it's inappropriate. So can you please hold on to your horses? You will get a chance to use your airtime outside the chamber, preferably. Thank you, Deputy President. Please proceed.
Yes, thank you, Deputy Speaker. We are in a process of consultation on how best to administer land that is under the custodianship of traditional leaders. We're doing so that our people living in rural areas under the leadership of traditional leaders must also get the same benefits in terms of the land that they are staying on. They must be able to get title where they are staying. They must be able to do land transactions that will allow them to enter into commercial transactions that will benefit them. So at the end of the process, we are going to take the product of that consultation process back to Cabinet, and the policy will be put in place. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Deputy President. The next question, number 8, is asked by Honourable Mailham. Honourable Deputy President. Members, please notice your microphones and mute them, please.
Thank you, Honourable Deputy Speaker. As government, we acknowledge that the economic climate we are currently facing as a country, it's a very challenging one and impacting on individuals at the household level. Unfortunately, the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic has further compounded our situation. As such, we fully understand the growing calls for Eskom's tariff to be kept at a reasonable level of affordability, especially for our poor and marginalized communities. Therefore, it must be noted that the estimated tariff increase is subject to assessment and decision by the National Energy Regulator of South Africa. All of us should protect the operational independence of our regulator, but still require of it to apply the appropriate tariff mechanism in the determination of tariffs associated with the type of power that is required to balance the system over the medium-term expenditure framework. The Department of Mineral Resources and Energy has advised that if based on weighted average costs per unit of about R1.57 per kilowatt an hour for the preferred bidder proposal, it is estimated that the additional 1,995 megawatts capacity may result in electricity tariff increase of between 3 and 5%. I must repeat this, that it may result in the increase of the tariff, but will await the decision of the regulator in this instance. It must be noted that the cost includes both the capacity and energy as per the requirements of Eskom system operator. The nature of electricity supply constraints, which also relate to the increased variability and non-dispatchability of some supply options, have necessitated the consideration of the risk mitigation power procurement program in order to alleviate the current electricity supply constraints. The 20-year commitment seeks to, among others, ensure reasonable electricity unit costs while taking into account the said nature of electricity supply constraints. Basing the risk mitigation independent power producers procurement on a 20-year power purchase agreement will ensure that the projects around this additional capacity remain sustainable. This means that costs are covered whilst guaranteeing capacity that is available to generate electricity whenever dispatch instruction has been activated. The need to attract long-term investment in power generation is key to ensuring the security of energy supply, while also realizing expected returns from such investment by the private sector. These initiatives emphasize this government's commitment to ensure energy security from a wide range of energy sources and technologies in line with the Integrated Resource Plan of 2019. They further seek to reduce extensive utilization of expensive diesel-based peaking open cycle gas turbine generators in the medium to long term. Thank you, Honorable Deputy Speaker.
Thank you, Deputy President. Honorable Maelham, it's your chance to ask the first supplementary.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Deputy President, in the last few weeks, a number of allegations have arisen around the risk mitigation independent power producers procurement program. Specifically, there are allegations that politically connected individuals have benefited from the process and that senior department officials and members of Minister Mantashe's family had attempted to manipulate the process of identifying successful bidders. Additionally, there are questions about one of the bidders who has been associated with corruption in Lebanon, forcing that country to impound their assets. There are also concerns that the request for proposals was drafted with a specific outcome in mind, despite the claim that it was technically agnostic, and that the length of the contracts is not a cost-effective solution to our electricity crisis. While we acknowledge the urgent need to procure additional generation capacity, this cannot occur in an environment of corruption, maladministration, and tenderpreneurship. Last week, the DA requested the Portfolio Committee on Mineral Resources and Energy to investigate the bid adjudication process, the scoring, and the role of politically connected individuals in the process, a request they rejected. My question, Deputy President, is whether you would support a comprehensive investigation by this Parliament into this programme, and if not, why not?
Honourable Deputy President.
Thank you very much, Honourable Deputy Speaker. I think we'll agree with the Honourable Member that we must at all times fight corruption. Wherever it emerges, we must be ready as a nation, as a country, to fight it. And if these allegations are something that we can believe, I think we must take the necessary measures to sort of cite the relevant institutions about these allegations. For now, I'm taking them as an allegation until we submit the relevant authorities so that they are investigated fully. Now, I am not going to instruct Parliament on how best Parliament should conduct its affairs. That will be at the hands of Parliament as they do their oversight to take the appropriate actions wherever they feel necessary. But to the Honourable Member in question, I would suggest that we approach the law enforcement institutions with this allegation so that it can be probed further. I'm happy that you are standing up, trying to defend your country, defend it against corruption and all that. It's a good move, but let's do it with the appropriate institutions. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The next, Honourable NLS Kwankwa.
DP, thank you very much, Honourable Deputy Speaker. And the challenges in network here, let me DP, in particular as the UDM with this risk mitigation power procurement program, is that once again it doesn't seem like urhulumente uzimisele into yoba inakwazi ukuinvesta kwi-renewable energy rather than procuring it, continue to procure that energy from the private sector. Umbuzo omileyo uthi, I hope uzawukwazi uphendula wena ususpendwanga noko usekhona. Umbuzo omileyo uthi, Deputy President, manyathelo mani thina urhulumente awathathayo uqiniseke ukuthi xa move away from diesel based ne-coal based from Eskom, ibe kanti ikhona investment kurhulumente ku-Eskom norhulumente ukuze akwazi uba ne-renewable energy yakhe, IPPs for example, akwazi uba ne-wind farms instead of just continuing to procure energy from the private sector. Yintoni eyenziwayo ngurhulumente uqiniseka loo nto? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honourable Member. Deputy President.
Siyabonga, Deputy Speaker. Esingakusho nje ukuthi uEskom ikampani enkulu kahulumeni. Ikampani ebeneyinkinga ikakhulu ezimalini. Ikampani edonsa kanzima ukuthi ibhadale abantu abayisizayo abayisebenzelayo, iphinde idonse kanzima ukuthi iqhubeke nohlelo lwayo lokwakha ama-power stations amasha amabili iMiduphi nokusile. Manje-ke ngaphambi kokuba u-Eskom aqhubeke athathe isinyathelo sokuthi akhona uku-investa kuma-renewable energy, kuzafanele ukuthi u-Eskom aphelelisele i-investment yakhe ayenzile ekusile ne-investment ayenzile eMiduphi. Ngokwethu-ke ukubona sizavakashela ikusile neMiduphi, siyacabanga ukuthi ikusile iduzane-ke nokuthi ingene into full operations kanye nayo iMiduphi. Sifuna ukuqiniseka ukuthi i-Eskom isebenze ngokusikhandla ukuze lawo ma-power stations amabili aphelele. Izabe siyaqhubeka-ke i-Eskom ngokuvuma kweyimali bese iyakwazi uku-investa ku-renewable energy. But in the meantime, siyabona ukuthi i-load shedding le, ukushoda ku-energy kuyayilimaza i-country. Vele kuzawufanele ukuthi sivumele abanye abantu bayiproduce i-energy siyithenge kubo until u-Eskom akwazi ukuzimela. Into nje esithembele kuyo ukuthi ugesi lo noma ngabe uproduce abantu aba-private ngasiyo u-Eskom sizomthola ngeprice efanele. I-national regulator yethu le iyofanele isize ukuthi nanoma ubani usithengisela energy simthenge ngeprice esizokhona ukuyibhadala thina singabahlali baseMzansi. Ngiyabonga.
Thank you. Siyabonga. Honorable Luzipo, that's for you for the third supplementary question.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker, and thank you, Deputy President. I'm sure Deputy President will agree with me that political loud-hailing is a very serious disease and is not a sign of ideological development. And therefore, I'm sure you will be aware that Parliament has committees, and committees of Parliament report to Parliament. I hope when members make themselves political ancestors and speak on behalf of the committees, they will be able to explain that they refused to work in cooperation with one of the most strategic committees of Parliament, which is SCOPA. But we will bring the matter, obviously, to the Parliament. I think also there is a dissuasion of the question. Let me go to the original question. Deputy
Ngicela nimute mic zenu please. Just be orderly. Oh come and kopa to assembly. Assembly. Thank you. Come on, you don't have to do it repeatedly. You know that. You know the rules, right? No, man, look at what you are doing now. You want to engage me about heckling?
Chairperson.
That's out of order. You shouldn't be doing that.
Chairperson.
Yes, Honorable Member.
I would like to...
You mean Deputy Speaker, yeah?
Sorry, what are you... Deputy Speaker?
Yes.
Most of the members are not wearing their mask while they're sitting in here. That's a danger to us. Please.
No. That one is out of order. That's sustained, at least here, Honorable Members. Please put on your masks on, close your nose, as appropriately is required. Okay. Sekela Mongameli. Manje ubuzwanga songaphawula ke kulokho okushiwo ke. Mawuthanda Sekela Somlo. Deputy President.
Cha Deputy Speaker ngeke ngiphawule kuloko okushiwo ngoba umbuzo awukho. Ngizawulinda umbuzo.
Alright, ngiyaxolisa ke isikhathi sinjalo sidliwa inja. The last supplementary question is by Honorable Mautwe.
Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker. Deputy President, we are aware that there's no intention to address self-inflicted challenges facing ESCOM because of incompetence and mismanagement. We are also aware that IMF and World Bank pamphlet paraded as National Treasury Economic Recovery Policy is the one that is guiding energy policy and privatization of ESCOM. It is irrational and illogical that you can have sensible, practical and believable plans to solve the energy crisis at the same time entering into corrupt contracts intended to benefit companies linked with the wife of the Minister of Minerals and Energy, with foreign-owned companies fronting local companies in a contract that will cost South Africans 300 billion over the 20 years and pay 14 billion a year for energy when we can pay local renewable energy far less for more energy. Or even better, Deputy President, listen to the EFF's sound guidance and reorientate ESCOM to have a balanced mix of nuclear, coal, gas and renewable sources built by ESCOM, employing technicians at ESCOM and ESCOM owning these sources of power. Now, DP, should the government continue to procure energy from service providers and leave ESCOM with no options but pay prices they did not negotiate?
Your time is expired.
And also, by when, because we can see that the strategy is to privatize ESCOM. So by when does the government intend to really privatize ESCOM? Thank you, Deputy Speaker. I like your jersey. Thank you.
You are out of order, Honourable Member. And this is a repeat. Honourable Members, this is not a joke. You are given time, you should stick to it. The next thing you go screaming about how we hate you. When you are yourself hating yourself, Deputy President, angazi noma uzwile lo mbuzo loyo. Awuzame ke baba.
Thank you. He had very well.
Thank you.
Honourable Member, you are out of order. Stop doing what you are doing.
Now, the first question that I need to address is that as a country, as a government, we must do everything possible to try and assist ESCOM to come out of this problem so that we can have a secure energy supply. This is good for our economy, and this is good if we want to attract investment. And if we want to grow our economic fortunes. It's important that ESCOM be supported by all means. And if the leadership of ESCOM is trying very hard, I think it's important for us to give them the necessary support. I am aware that in the process of procuring whatever in government, there will always be allegations of corruption. And I'm saying, as a democratic country, we've got institutions that can really probe these allegations. Let us not talk about it, let us go and report it to say there's this allegation and this allegation, let us probe it. But as for the current challenge that we're facing as a country, that we have got a shortage of energy. Now, it's important to address this shortage in the medium term, so that we allow our power utility, ESCOM, to deal with its own problem. And of course, as a country, we might think of creating another entity that will sort of support ESCOM. We can even create 3 entities that will sort of generate electricity. China has got 3 entities that are generating electricity, and they're all state entities. Now, it's quite clear that we cannot put all our eggs in one basket. We must probably try and create other entities that will relieve the pressure from ESCOM. But as we procure, as we do this and this and this, if there's corruption, I think we must deal with it. we can't be afraid of dealing with our problem, solving the shortage of energy, and be afraid of buying additional energy. Now, if in the process of buying the corruption is detected, I think the law must take its course. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The next question is number 9. It's asked by Honorable K.R.J. Meshwe. Deputy President.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. The COVID-19 vaccine market is a very different market from the usual markets that we know for medicines. Globally, countries have limited options since all COVID-19 vaccine manufacturers have adopted the same approach. Therefore, countries must accept full liability for the vaccines they acquire. In our case in South Africa, it was either we accept these clauses as a country or we do not have access to any of these vaccines. Whilst faced with these conditions, government had a further obligation stemming from these conditions of establishing a COVID-19 vaccine injury no-fault compensation scheme. This is one of the critical components of ensuring that there are no hindrances in South Africa delivering a successful vaccination plan. The scheme will be operational for a limited period. In the main, this scheme will provide expeditious and easy access to compensation for persons who suffer harm, loss or damage as a result of vaccine injury that may be caused by the administration of COVID-19 vaccine specified in terms of regulations at a facility within the country. We have a responsibility to ensure that our people are protected through this scheme. Manufacturers of COVID-19 vaccines will not take any contribution to this no-fault compensation system, as this is part of the contractual obligation for all countries that acquire COVID-19 vaccines. We are learning from the recent experience of governments who are reviewing reports of potential cases of severe side effects amongst vaccinated members of their population that such a scheme is very important. The COVID-19 vaccine injury no-fault compensation scheme will contain and minimize the effects that may arise as a response to the COVID-19 pandemic. As we take lessons from the implementation of South Africa's COVID-19 response plan, we continue to forge ahead with plans of building capacity to manufacture COVID-19 vaccines locally through harnessing our existing manufacturing capabilities in partially state-owned BioVac institution, as well as research and development capabilities with partners in BRICS. We are encouraged by a recent announcement of an anticipated waiver on intellectual property rights for COVID-19 vaccines that is proposed by South Africa and India and now supported by the United States of America. The proposal establishes a global solution to enhance manufacturing and boost supply capacity and enables coordination and access to information currently under patent protection. For countries that do not currently have manufacturing capacity on certain medical technologies, the waiver could open up more supply options and avoid countries being reliant only on one or two suppliers. Where supply capacity currently exists, it can be repurposed to COVID-19 vaccines production, and in this way improve the supply available to all nations. South Africa and Africa as a whole stand to benefit by timely access to affordable vaccines. Alongside these efforts, the South African government continues to ensure that COVID-19 vaccination rollout plan reaches all population groups, providing equal access to those in urban and rural areas of the country. Thank you, Honorable Deputy Speaker.
Thank you. Honorable Meshwa.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker, for that reply. I must say that it is concerning to note that manufacturers of COVID-19 vaccines have demanded that countries who use their vaccines should grant them indemnity from prosecution should their vaccines cause injuries or even death in some cases. It is also concerning that these manufacturers have coerced countries using their products to start the COVID-19 vaccine injury no-fault compensation scheme. My question to you, Deputy President, is that if these manufacturers are confident that their products are as safe as they claim, why would they insist on indemnification? And how does government plan to fund this no-fault compensation scheme without their contribution? In the light of the poor state of our economy, I want to plead with you, sir, not to